Hello and welcome. It's a beautiful autumn day in the Swedish capital Stockholm, and we are sending this event from our studio located in our head office, where the vast majority of our 60 employees normally works. But as we all know, this year is anything but normal, and home office has become the new normality. So, who are we? The mission of the German Swedish Chamber of Commerce is to promote the development of German-Swedish business relations. We have a total of roughly 1,200 members in both countries, consisting of companies in all sizes from all kinds of industries. In addition to this, we offer a wide range of professional services to make your business flourish. We also have offices in Gothenburg and Malmö. Today, our aim is to highlight the growing market opportunities for the German-Swedish business community with regards to hydrogen, the chemical element that increasingly seems to be on everyone's lips. With representatives from top-notch industries and my colleague Nini, we will also look into how German and Swedish key competences within different industry sectors can be matched. Since we have an important substance, many distinguished guest speakers, and only a limited amount of time, I'll go straight forward. I just want to mention that a recorded version of this webinar will be available to you via the same link you used to connect. And unfortunately, Diana Warnecke from BASF will not be able to join us due to illness. We wish her a speedy recovery. So, hydrogen in Germany. Why has it become a main topic now? What projects are the German government promoting, and what obstacles and challenges may the German companies face? Let's get started with an overview by Andreas Kuhlmann, who is CEO at the German Energy Agency Dena, which has similarities to the Swedish agency Energimyndigheten. Andreas, a warm welcome, and the screen is yours.
Hello. Good morning from Berlin. What an exciting morning. In the US they are still counting, and in Sweden they are talking about the future. And I think hydrogen is the future, and that is why I'm very happy to be with you for about 15 minutes. That would all be much better if you show some slides where I could speak about. Valle, you have some slides? Yes, they're coming. Very good. So hydrogen in Germany, what is the background for this discussion and what are we doing? Let's just go to the next slide maybe. This is just a few words about us. We understand ourselves as being like an intermediary between politics, industry and research. And well, we are in permanent dialogue with the market participants because we really do focus on business. We want to make energy transition work, but from a perspective which is based on businesses, because otherwise we don't think it makes much sense. Let's move to the next slide, please. So why will hydrogen play an important role? There is an is, a can, and needs. Hydrogen is an important feedstock for the industry already. You can store it and you can transport it. It's an opportunity for industrial policies for Germany and Europe. It makes it possible to bring green electrons from somewhere as molecules to where you need it. Carbon-free produced hydrogen can make a contribution to climate protection measures in all sectors. I would even say it's the missing link of what we were discussing for quite a while. Without molecules, and most of these molecules will be based on hydrogen, I don't think it's possible to really reach the targets we want to reach. But then at the end, of course, there are some needs for carbon-free produced hydrogen. A regulatory framework, infrastructure, new business models, and maybe even new technologies, for example. And this is kind of in the core of the discussion in Germany, in the European Union, in many other countries as well. So I would say that carbon-free produced hydrogen also needs an international market. You will see it when I talk a little bit about the figures. Let's move to the next slide, please. Well, this is not to confuse you, but to show you all the very different aspects which are important when it comes to really creating a hydrogen market. And the overall question, of course, is how can all these actors and aspects be brought together? Cross-sectoral research and planning must be carried out, no limitation in individual sectors, that's what we suggest at least. And hydrogen needs integrated energy transition, sector coupling, as many people say. It's the only way to achieve the necessary cost reductions and when you really want to create good business models. Let's go to slide 5. In July 2020, the German government published the National Hydrogen Strategy after long discussions. The targets issued are a national and an international market ramp up for electrolyzers and PTX technologies and value creation within Germany. But as you can see here, first phase starting now until 2023 is preparation for market ramp up, sizing opportunities. And then we are thinking about a market ramp up, well, in 2023 or so. Well, why is that? It makes sense, and I really want to say that. Because at the moment, there are just too many open questions for really saying, well, this will be the proper market. These are the right conditions we need. We are still kind of experiencing, but we have to have courage in doing these big size projects. And that is why the government decided on these 38 measures. You could read up. I will give you a little bit more details in a minute. Because this hydrogen strategy is available in English, and why they said, well, okay, here is some money, which is also connected to the green recovery after this Corona crisis. That is 7 billion for national measures and 2 billion for international measures. Next slide, please. Well, as you can see, the 38 measures can be distributed in these areas over here, and also the amount of money. The main focus up to 2030 will be on the industry and transport sectors, with additional support for research and training programs, at least with the money we do have on the table now. In parts of the chemical industry and refineries, fossil or gray hydrogen can already be replaced by green hydrogen without adaptation. It can start immediately. And in addition, the existing infrastructures of the chemical industry, hydrogen networks, can continue to be used and, if necessary, be expanded and optimized for other applications, such as in the steel industry. So that is an easy access idea where you could use hydrogen right away. But in the long term, hydrogen therefore plays an important role in securing Germany as an industrial nation, because it's difficult to see all these industrial processes just based on electricity, of course. Well, hydrogen and PTX-based mobility is an alternative for applications where the direct use of electricity is not practical or technically feasible. But then if you look at the problems we do have in other sectors as well, like the building sector, heating sector, we might have to use hydrogen power fuels, that is hydrogen-based other fuels, synthetic fuels and so on, also in the heating sector. And I know this is kind of weird, because where would all that hydrogen come from? But we are at the very beginning of a market, and we will see how these things develop. The 2 billion euro for international measures are very important, because we are convinced that we do have to work on a global strategy here. We do have to talk to partners. Most of the amount of hydrogen we will use in Germany in future decades will come from other countries. We are certainly an import country for hydrogen. We also created a National Hydrogen Council with 25 high-ranking experts from industry, research, and other organizations. And that's just to accompany all the future steps based on the hydrogen strategy. Dena cooperates directly with this National Hydrogen Council. Here, Dena provides support in the form of knowledge transfer and development and in organizational matters. Next slide, please. Well, the big question is, how high will future hydrogen demand be? Well, we published a huge study 2 years ago, the Dena lead study, Integrated Energy Transition, and we made some very first guesses. And everybody was looking funny when we published these numbers, because they said, oh, well, yeah, that's crazy, oh, that's a huge amount. But now, only 2 years later, we hear these figures all over, and we see even more ambitious figures from other people and countries coming. But nevertheless, what we do need is a strong increase of national hydrogen demand. We said in our study, well, I mean, if by 2030 we are at 46 terawatt hours, that would probably be fine with the targets we then had. As you may know, Germany is now also having more ambitious climate targets. And now the German National Hydrogen Strategy says or assumes that up to 110 terawatt hours in 2030 with an electrolysis capacity of 5 gigawatt within Germany should be needed. And this means a 200-fold increase within the next 10 years when it comes to electrolyzers. A 200-fold increase in 10 years. It's even a stronger increase than we had at the PV expansion over the last decades. It is foreseeable that the majority of hydrogen will have to be imported, as I said, about 80% we guess at the moment. But hey, it's a new market, so we don't really know by now. A study launched by the EU predicts that up to 23% of final energy demand will be covered by hydrogen and will create million jobs. So there is no thing like an all-electric energy transition. There will always be the need of molecules, and if the EU says it will be somewhere between 20 and 25%, we will see. That would still be very ambitious for the electric part of the energy transition. Anyway, the EU hydrogen strategy targets a 40 gigawatt electrolysis capacity in 2030, and the worldwide demand, if you would all sum it up at the moment, I mean, this is a very just first look at it, could be around 9,000 terawatt hours. This is such a huge amount that there are, of course, doubts where should that all come from. And this is why it is so important to talk to people like you about technologies, about markets, but also to talk to other countries. There are many countries we are in discussions with. Next slide, please. Well, I mean, it's not only about electrolyzers, it's about all kinds of technologies later on. But these two companies I want to mention because they are winners of a global startup initiative we do at Dena together with the World Energy Council and together with the Tysk-Svenska Handelskammaren. So thank you very much for your support on this really great project. Every year we have about 550 or so applications coming in from all over the world. And these two companies are two winners, well, unfortunately or fortunately, both from Germany, and they work on hydrogen issues, one on electrolyzers with a special idea they have, and the other on liquid organic hydrogen carriers. So the transport of hydrogen, of course, is also a very big issue. And you see that the whole issue is about innovation when it comes on hydrogen. Let's go to the next slide, please. Well, that's just our look, a quick look to Sweden. For the use of hydrogen, we believe that Sweden shows perfect conditions. Sweden is very ambitious to lead by example and to achieve the climate change targets quickly, even quicker than Germany. I think already reached high shares of renewable energy and also facing high renewable potentials. Well, Sweden has a high industry standard and a high level know-how in clean tech. So even if it is not only about producing hydrogen, it is also about all the technologies behind. A comparison of the roadmaps of fossil-free Sweden with German roadmaps of the different sectors like aviation, steel or chemical industry show many similarities. Like in aviation, for example, it's obviously a topic because it will be difficult to fly around the world with batteries. And if we start using synthetic fuels, or we say power fuels in aviation, well, who could say what would come out of it? What kind of possibilities are there for heavy loads and transport and so on? But then also the steel industry obviously seems to be an issue in the Swedish strategy so far. And I just heard that the hydrogen breakthrough iron making technology is another great thing you developed over there in Sweden. I haven't had a chance to really look at it more closely, but if it's true that for like a ton of carbon, you would then reduce the carbon dioxide amount from 1.8 tons to 25 kilograms. Well, you could see here the potential of what can be happening here. I mean, there are a lot of questions about the markets, the price of steel and so on, but what we do see as well is there might be a chance of developing a lead market in the European Union for green steel, for example, or maybe for green chemical products. We will see how that ends up. The energy sector brings many possibilities of cooperation between Germany and Sweden, and the Swedish-German Tech and Clean Tech Forum provides a valuable platform for this. So I'm very much looking forward to further cooperations maybe, or exchange of thoughts, cooperation in decarbonization strategies, working together in cross-regional pilot projects, so why not? Internal cooperation and same targets in national strategies help to ramp up an international market. Let's go to my last slide, maybe. A bit about hydrogen funding strategies. So on the European level, you probably all know, European Clean Hydrogen Alliance was announced as part of the new industrial strategy for Europe in March 2020. The alliance should support scaling up production and demand for renewable and low carbon hydrogen, and the alliance will establish an investment agenda and support the scaling up of the hydrogen value chain across Europe, including estimated investments of about 430 billion until 2030. I mean, these are huge figures. Hydrogen projects could also be identified by the Strategic Forum for important projects of common European interest, these IPCEIs, which provides large sums of funding then. So there's lots of potential. In Germany, we had, well, what we call Reallabore der Energiewende, like CapEx projects, where we try out things to bring things together, how to produce with power to X technologies, hydrogen and other things, and how to integrate it in the system. I think that's a very promising approach for the beginning to scale up all the tiny projects. But it's still, of course, a challenge, because what we see in Germany at the moment is it's not only about CapEx, of course. The regulatory framework is of extreme importance. And if, by the way, in the RED II directive, something is coming up from the European Union that might have big influence on the business models, the colleagues will talk about later on, I guess. So, well, I mean, many things going on. I can't go into all the details here for the moment, but let me finish with a final thought. I believe that the global value chains will be changed in the upcoming decades. If there will be a global market on hydrogen, then the whole global value chains might change. And that's, of course, a very big challenge for countries like Sweden and the countries like Germany. But that's also a chance. And if I may finish, you can't change the world by keeping everything the way it is. So maybe we are at the edge of really exciting times. Thank you very much for having me. And my very last slide would just be the thank you slide, Valle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andreas. And also very interesting that you brought up the funding for international projects and also then the possibilities for German-Swedish cooperations. So thank you very much. I will let you go for today, and greetings to Berlin from Stockholm.
All the best to Sweden.
Thank you. Let's move on to figure out what impact hydrogen has on the work in the companies we've invited for today's session. What are the German companies up to? What projects are the industry sectors investing in? What technology and solutions are needed to enhance the development? I'm very happy to welcome Jan Ellringmann, who is Business President of Linde Europe North. Welcome, Jan, and please.
Thank you very much, and a warm welcome and good morning from Stockholm, from my side as well to everybody. Thanks for having me and having the opportunity to talk about this topic, which at that time currently maybe gives a little bit longer term perspective than the other topics that we currently typically are involved in and discussing and have to reflect on day in and day out. But this is a super important topic, therefore really grateful that you set up this forum and we have the chance to, and for me to have the chance to talk about what we can contribute and what we are already doing as a company on hydrogen. So let me share my presentation. So can you just confirm that it's coming through, please?
Looks good.
Okay, brilliant. So Linde and clean hydrogen. To start with, maybe a very brief introduction into what our business is about. Linde, the global leader in industrial gases and engineering. We formed in a merger in 2018 this world leader with a history of 140 years. And we think that on the basis of our global business, we can play a very crucial role in the development of the hydrogen business. And to start with also, hydrogen is not a new business for us. Hydrogen actually for us is one of the important businesses. Industrial gases is not about air gases only, but about hydrogen already today as well. We are global, as I said, 80,000 employees worldwide, but also, of course, and this is what I'm responsible for, with a strong presence in Nordics and in the whole of Europe, of course, as well. But I'm responsible for Sweden and the rest of Scandinavia and the Baltics, and there's a little bit of focus I would like to put on later on with regards to projects as well. What I would like to highlight here as well is that we have been recognized for our sustainability work. We are part of the Dow Jones Sustainability Index for years now. And I think sustainability for us is not about hydrogen only or CO2. This is much more. As a company. We are using a lot of power. We have to look into every opportunity to reduce our carbon footprint here. This is in electricity consumption. This is about route planning. But this is about, of course, also the options that we bring to our customers and applications like with hydrogen. And what does hydrogen mean for us? We see a huge potential in hydrogen. It requires certain enablers. It has certain challenges, but it also requires a clear strategy from our side. To start with the enablers, hydrogen, as you have just seen it from Andreas, is a topic that more and more gains traction in some key areas, and this is where we are focusing our focus on as well, our efforts. It requires clear regulation and targets on emissions, and it requires the support from governments and policies and funding. And this is what just has been highlighted already, and therefore we are really glad that also the governments and the support is moving and clear strategies and agendas are developing there as well. There are some challenges since we won't be able to build on subsidies forever, which is on closing a cost gap. This is something we are going to work on from an equipment perspective and the way we can operate the whole system, but this also has to be done from a renewable power perspective. And it requires market development on an applications perspective, i.e. fuel cell cars, for example, or applications in industrial environment. Our focus with regards to Linde's strategy is very clearly on some core geographies in the EU and the UK, in the US, and parts of Asia. We leverage our supply network, and we do this in cooperation with the local governments and local partners. Still, this is something where we really have to pick our battles, if you like, and create certain critical mass in certain applications in certain countries. And therefore, it's not kind of we're doing everything everywhere, but we are really picking our topics and therefore focusing on certain topics, which I come to later on in certain countries. Already today, as I said, we have got unrivaled capabilities globally. In hydrogen, we are the global leader in hydrogen. Our business today, that's not green yet, of course, in hydrogen is 2 billion. And we also have got a huge installed base of 80 electrolysis plants that we are operating globally. As much as we are already investing into future technologies like with the joint venture in ITM electrolysis we did lately, and also our refueling technology, which is market leading as well and has been installed in the size of 200 refueling stations already globally. But with a strong focus on Europe. We are active and advocating for hydrogen, and as it already has been highlighted, this is about forming partnerships, building the right momentum, and it has to be done globally as much as locally. And this is just a reflection on what this means for us. We are basically active everywhere on a global scale, but also on a local scale, just to highlight hydrogen mobility in Germany, for example, then in cooperation with the local governments in the US and in Germany, but also in Sweden, of course. When you further look into what we can bring and contribute to the hydrogen economy, then this is a question about capabilities. And it's not about production only, it's not about the end use only, it's the whole ecosystem that we have to be able to handle. And Linde can and will play a crucial part, and already does play a crucial part in the established hydrogen economy, but you do need those capabilities also in the coming years in order to establish a green hydrogen economy further on. It is about production, either on the basis of natural gas through steam methane reforming. In combination with CCS, this also can reduce the carbon footprint. But then, of course, electrolysis is the key topic here, where we have got our capability, our technology offer at hand as well for everybody who wants to produce clean hydrogen, or for us to do this for you. You have to be able to process hydrogen, and you have to be able to store and to distribute hydrogen before I come to applications. And this, of course, depends on the key use. But just to give you an example, you need approximately 4 to 8 kilograms for a fuel cell car to refuel fully. If you want to do this with liquid hydrogen, then you won't be able to basically refuel more than approximately 300 cars a day in Europe. Therefore, we have to invest into infrastructure, and we have to do so locally. And it's super complex. It always depends on what kind of application you're actually talking about, be it liquid hydrogen that you might use, or be it gaseous hydrogen. Finally, the applications and the end use. And here it's really about cooperation. What we can contribute is anything in industrial environments as a feedstock, or as in heating or in combustion. We can contribute the refueling technology for fuel stations. But when it comes to things like heating and power generation in buildings, then I guess I'm looking more to my colleague from Bosch, where this is an important topic for you most probably. And whilst this might not be that high on the agenda in Germany and Sweden yet, I think it's super high on the agenda in the UK, for example, where people are looking into whether or not hydrogen can be fed into the gas grid much more, and to a larger extent to what we are thinking about in Germany. I'm coming to what you might be interested more of. It's less theory, maybe more the practical examples of how the hydrogen economy currently is picking up. And you find 4 examples here where we, Linde, have got a strong involvement. It's steel, and that's Sweden really, where we took the lead together with Ovako to have the first full-scale test in hydrogen-based steel production. Then we have got rail and transport, which is a super important sector as well, where we talk about fuel cell trains. And also here we are part of a pilot installation in Germany, which is going to be commissioned in 2021. And we are really proud that we can support the development here. We talk about transport in marine settings. That's the picture from Norway. Also here we are in discussions and involved in a project that's a more pilot project, but there are much more projects to come. And for Norway, for example, it's one of the key options to decarbonize the transport sector on sea. And finally, heavy vehicle transport. Hydrospider is an example from Switzerland, where we hold a 10% stake in the company Hydrospider, which in the end has got the idea to basically promote heavy goods transport in Switzerland on the basis in cooperation with Hyundai. This is just an overview of some of the examples. As I already said, I think it's really important that we build our examples here and there. We try to understand how the hydrogen economy in the end is able to evolve. So far, we are still in the pilot stage, in the kind of preparation stage, as it has been described earlier. But for sure, those examples will be the basis for an economy which in the end is going to grow, and I guess it's going to grow fast as well. And finally, the question, what it actually takes for hydrogen to take off. And the key here is the framework from our perspective. From an industry side, we can only contribute that much. And I guess there I'm talking not for Linde only, but for all the other partners from the industry side as well. We need a very clear framework with a clear political commitment to hydrogen and with a substantial funding and subsidies framework in order to get this industry going. So far, hydrogen based on renewables is without any subsidies, not cost competitive yet. I think we can bring down the cost for the equipment, but it will take scale and therefore it takes time and it takes a number of installations in order to get there. We also need a clear framework politically for CO2. And of course, we need access to renewable power on a cost competitive basis. Finally, we need to be able to apply it, and that's on the industry side. The last 2 points, we need the vehicles, we need the trucks, the ships, the industry applications where we can get involved in steel, for example, as we're already doing, in order to get this industry going. Overall, we think there's a huge potential, and we are looking forward to make this happen together with everybody here in the call and above, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan. Very enlightening, exciting times for hydrogen in your company as well. Thank you very much. Now let's move on and hear what Christian Mohrdieck, who's in charge of fuel cell development at the Daimler Group, has to say about current developments in the automotive sector. Christian, please tell us a bit about your plans and projects regarding hydrogen. The screen is yours.
Okay, so welcome also from my side. I would like to present to you hydrogen as a potential for German-Swedish cooperation from the standpoint of an automotive manufacturer today. So thank you very much for having me in this German-Swedish Tech Forum. Hydrogen is needed as a zero-emission energy carrier to overcome the challenges around the energy transition. And I would like to emphasize here, hydrogen is not an energy, it's an energy carrier. And as the slide of the Hydrogen Council shows, hydrogen can contribute in 7 different ways to help the energy transition to become reality. So first of all, it can enable large-scale efficient renewable energy integration, wind and solar. It can help with distribution and buffering energy in order to increase system resilience. And moreover, hydrogen is able to decarbonize not only transport, but also the energy-intensive industry like steel, also decarbonize building heating, as already mentioned, and last but not least, serve as a feedstock using captured carbon. So that's one reason why Daimler became a founding member of the Hydrogen Council in 2017, this worldwide industry coalition to promote hydrogen in different sectors. So when it comes to transportation, you have to convert hydrogen into electrical energy, electrical voltage, and this is done by a fuel cell. Daimler probably has the most comprehensive experience with fuel cell vehicles in customers' hands. Actually, it started in 1994 when we presented the world's first polymer electrolyte membrane fuel cell electric vehicle to the public. At the time, it was still a rolling laboratory, so we developed over time this technology to a maturity so that it is now really ready for the market. So I would like to highlight some of the stepping stones. We did a few concept vehicles, not only in the passenger car segment, but also in commercial vehicles like buses and delivery vans. In 2011, on the occasion of the 125th birthday of our company, we drove around the world with 3 fuel cell vehicles. So they did more than 36,000 kilometers in a row. In the meantime, we accumulated more than 8 million kilometers with these vehicles. Together with other vehicles, it's even more than 20 million kilometers. And this world drive showed the vehicle technology is ready for the customer. but we need infrastructure. That was the big challenge for the World Drive. So we had mobile refueling with us to ensure the vehicles could always be driven. So we now reached a point where vehicles can reach more than 300,000 kilometers with one fuel cell stack. The average refueling time is less than 3 minutes. We analyzed 36,000 refuelings and came up with a refueling time of 2.8 minutes on average. So the next step was then to downsize the fuel cell in geometrical size. And in 2018, we were able to present a vehicle, the Mercedes-Benz GLC F-Cell, with a fuel cell in the engine compartment. So from now on, we can integrate fuel cells into any kind of vehicle where an internal combustion engine fits. This vehicle also was the world's first due to the fact that it was a combination of a plug-in battery and a fuel cell. Why did we do this? With a plug-in battery, you can drive 50 kilometers on battery only, which can bridge the gap from your home where you can recharge the battery to the next hydrogen refueling station in most urban areas in Germany. So from this technology status, we took it over to the commercial vehicle section. So Daimler Truck's ambition is that all of our vehicles should be CO2 neutral by 2039. And this does not only mean that the product has to be CO2 neutral, but by 2039, also the whole supply chain should be CO2 neutral. So we also, as a truck company, as a vehicle company, do have a huge interest that, for example, the steel industry is also able to reduce their carbon footprint, because steel is one of the major materials used in vehicles. The EU, the European Union, set very challenging targets for the CO2 reduction, 15% in 2025, 30% even in 2030 for commercial vehicles. And this might not be the final reduction level. So this means if we don't comply, we will have to face huge potential fines. And the fines are in an order of magnitude that they would really put our company in huge economic difficulties. So the only way to go forward is to do zero-emission vehicles. And there will be a need for significant numbers of such vehicles in the 2030 timeframe. So when we look at different technologies in order to achieve the goals, there are only two options: batteries and hydrogen fuel cells. So for huge vehicles like long-haul heavy-duty trucks, we only see the option with hydrogen due to the weight of the batteries and also due to the long recharging time. With hydrogen fuel cells, we have similar recharging times as with diesel or gasoline, and we do have also similar weight of the vehicle as for diesel or gasoline. And that's the result of our thinking. In September, we presented the Mercedes-Benz Gen H2 truck concept, which stands for a next generation of trucks based on fuel cells and hydrogen. The range is 1,000 kilometers and more, so like the diesel truck range. It's as capable as our customers expect. The logistics behind such truck concept is the same as today. We will start custom trials, fleet operations in 2033, and afterwards go into series productions of these trucks. You also see this truck behind me on the screens. So this fuel cell engine in our Gen H2 truck is the result of 3 decades, almost 3 decades in fuel cell expertise. So we were able to highly integrate the system. We use a twin system, a modular approach, so we can also size the system according to the power requirements of the application. So we can, besides truck, also do stationary and passenger car application. The system has a very low platinum content, 90% less than before. It's already high volume production oriented in order to minimize cost. It's also service oriented, so we did design to serviceability, and recyclability is taken into account right from the beginning to, as I said before, ensure the sustainability not only of the vehicle operation and the product, but also of the whole life cycle from cradle to grave, if I may say so. So we use a polymer electrolyte membrane fuel cell with the 25 plus years of experience we have with these systems. How is such a system built up? I don't want to go into technical details, but just mention here that it is very similar to an internal combustion engine regarding the setup of components like air humidifier, power distribution unit, DC-DC converter, turbocharger. So the components are electrical components, but the arrangement is very similar to an internal combustion engine. So this offers, in our view, large opportunities for supplier partners. And we would welcome also partners from Sweden if they can contribute to the components of such a fuel cell system. So what is needed in order to make this happen? As you can imagine, it takes huge commitments and also investments in order to make this technology commercially viable. And moreover, the automotive industry has to face a lot of investments because we are not able to meet the requirements with just one technology like hydrogen or batteries. We need both. So this means also twofold, 2 times the investments. In order to drive the cost down, we need volume. The fuel cell technology is ready for the market, but the volume needs to increase in order to drive the cost down and benefit from the economies of scale. And infrastructure, as already discussed, has to be installed. We need to have refueling infrastructure, and this cannot be a OEM-specific infrastructure, but it should be usable for all vehicles. So we need a credible voice of the industry that such infrastructure can be built up. We need, as already said, we need partnerships. And in order to solve at least 2 of these issues, Daimler and the Swedish big truck manufacturer Volvo teamed up. We are planning a German-Swedish joint venture. Actually, we signed all the binding contracts. The approval by the competition law authorities is now on its way. So we do expect that this joint venture will come into operation early next year. And in order to even increase the volume more, we also Daimler signed a letter of intent with Rolls-Royce Power System, also known as MTU, and they will use our truck fuel cell systems for stationary applications as backup power systems, for example, for data centers, which are done today by diesel generators, but also in the future, MTU wants to offer zero emission backup power systems with our fuel cell systems coming out of the Daimler-Volvo joint venture, which will hopefully be approved and come into operation then next year. So I certainly hope that I could show you we are intensively involved with hydrogen and fuel cell technology. We would welcome cooperation with Swedish companies like we started now with the big cooperation with Volvo. But as I explained before, there is room for more partners, and we would welcome a discussion with suitable partners in the near future. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm looking forward to questions.
Thank you very much, Christian. Let's move on to Robert Bosch and Markus Haefele, VP Sales, OE Commercial Vehicles. The automotive sector is certainly a key industry when it comes to hydrogen, and I'm very much looking forward to your presentation. 7 minutes, Markus, and the screen is yours.
So thank you very much. You can see the slide, I hope.
Yes, It looks good.
Okay. So also from Bosch side, it's right. Yeah, we are working with in terms of hydrogen on several fields, also on the thermotechnic side. Yeah, but that today, due to the limited time, we will not focus on. I will here also focus on the commercial vehicle side and make a little bit better understanding, yeah, why in that long-haul trucks we might use here in future in a significant way the hydrogen. In the slide you can see that here the emissions of the German road traffic, yeah, beginning from 1990, that is the basis for the 2030 emission targets, yeah, which are at the end finally only an intermediate step, let me say, on the whole journey, yeah, until to the Paris commitment from 2050 to have here a carbon neutral approach in terms of the transport side, but not only on transport in general. Yeah, maybe also some figures to understand. Yeah, the whole share of EU greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah, and there are more or less three sectors. Yeah, that's the energy sector with roughly 28% share of greenhouse gas. The industry with 21% and the transports with 22%, more or less. These are the three big sectors, yeah, and therefore the 23% of the transports, therefore more or less roughly the half is caused by pass cars and 6% by heavy duties. At the end, that means you see that we need to prepare a technology, yeah, which ends up, yeah, in a CO2 neutrality, yeah, in 2050. So therefore, it's important to understand that also even the 2025 and the 2030 targets also we have seen before, that is only an intermediate step. Yeah. That is a little bit a complex slide, but I try to make it easy to understand why we are focusing on the so-called long hauls, on the tractor and semi-trailers. Yeah, these are the typical cars or vehicles, yeah, we see on the autobahns and on the highways. Yeah, these are the vehicles with a semi-trailer with higher than 16 tons of payload. Normally they have 4 wheels and 2 axes, yeah, and they have a sleeper cabin, yeah. And these vehicles, yeah, on the commercial side, yeah, are causing more or less 2/3 of the annual CO2 emissions, yeah. And that's the reason why the regulation says here on that side of the commercial vehicle regulation, the commercial vehicles who are causing up most of the CO2 load, yeah, also should be clearly into the focus, and that they are doing also meanwhile with so-called weighting factors, yeah, which are giving in a very complex calculation, yeah, we call it here the vector tool. Then you see, yeah, on what kind of vehicle class you need to be focused to be successful to reach the emission targets which are requested. Yeah, we saw also before the 15 and the 30% reduction in 2025 and 2030. Yeah, on the pass car side, if I'm informed quite well, yeah, they sharpened it, yeah, until 50% meanwhile, and also it's not to be excluded, maybe also the 30% in 2030. That will be here the last figure, yeah, maybe also they will sharpen also here on that side the value. At the end, the CO2 emissions are made in relation by gram and ton per kilometer, yeah, and that of course is also a motivation, yeah, to the fleet owner, yeah, and so on, yeah, to take care not to drive with empties or half-empty vehicles, yeah, because all these topics here are more or less calculated, yeah, in that so-called vector tool. Yeah? And at the end also still showed there is a financial penalty, yeah, if the fleet target, yeah, for the CO2 emission will not be kept, yeah, and then you will pay for every sold vehicle, yeah, a certain number of euros, yeah, for every gram per ton kilometer, which is not reaching the target. And that, of course, makes the business case situation a little bit different, because today also fuel cell technique costs money, but even a BEV costs money, And let me say at the end now in the business case, also you need to consider here if you do not reach the targets, then you have here a significant penalty. That means at the end, as I mentioned, as take-home message, the long hauls with the tractor and semi-trailer, higher weight than the 60 tons that are the group, we need to focus on. In the next slide, you see the situation today. We have here, let me say, three typical, use cases. Transport in commercial vehicle side for urban and regional distribution, for line haul transport and the long haul transport. They have the differentiation in the mileage per day they are running. And then you have here several arguments. One, of course, is very strong is a political legislation. But we see more and more also the request from the end customer. They ask, we need to offer our customers for which we are transporting goods and so on. We have a strong demand from them also to be CO2 neutral with our transports. And that trend and that request we see more and more become stronger and stronger. And there's also a certain willingness to pay for that. Now, how it could look like in the future, we see here on the right side, and we can imagine that on the urban and regional distribution, in a range of 200, 300 kilometers per day, maybe also a battery electric solution could be feasible. But latest, if you come to the line haul transport or long haul transports, even out of reason, which was mentioned also before from the Daimler side, we also estimate that does not make sense here to run with battery electric. And that means then we need to talk about hydrogen. And therefore we see hydrogen, let me say, in two ways. Of course, hydrogen using in a fuel cell, of course. But also what comes up more and more and is requested, we are in discussion with all the customer in regards of using hydrogen in a conventional combustion system or internal combustion system. Because based on a today combustion engine, with very few adaptations, in principle also you can burn directly hydrogen. It's also not a brand new technique. That was also used 20 years and 25 years ago, still in test cars. But nevertheless, into consideration that at the end, we need to run in a CO2 neutral way. That also is an option. Let me say, at least which may guide us from the today's situation to a fuel cell approach via the bridge of driving with hydrogen in internal combustion engines. And then there is another topic which is not so discussed very likely from the political side, but at the end also it would be at least carbon neutral, is also to produce e-fuels, so synthetic fuels, also based on green regenerative energy, that principally also would be carbon neutral, but at the moment it's not foreseen in the regulation up right now that it will be recognized as such a solution. That means at the end, the battery electric part will be a solution, or it can be a part of the solution. And we see also that the hydrogen engine and hydrogen with a fuel cell, that these will be a coexisting solution for the future. Maybe it will end up finally in a complete fuel cell solution, that we will see. In terms of okay. 2 minutes. Then to highlight also a little bit how we are working, let me say, with Swedish partners. Yeah, we have a Swedish partner for the stack, for the fuel cell stack. Yeah, that is PowerCell, also located here on Gothenburg site. Yeah, we have here a joint development for series production. We have here exclusive license for the automotive side. We are still running meanwhile also with C samples. Yeah, we will start next year a small series and will be in series in 2022. Then I'm coming to the last slide, the main messages. Yeah, of course, yeah, all the topic, yeah, only can run on the basis of green hydrogen. Yeah, to produce hydrogen by fossil liquids, yeah, of course, cannot be the solution. Yeah, hydrogen as an energy carrier for transport sector is necessary. Yeah, to achieve the Paris Climate Agreement. We do not see here any chance to do it in another way. And the comparison of fuel cell technology and hydrogen engines suggests that both types will coexist, one beneath the other for the future. Bosch is developing both parts of these technologies, yeah, for rapid market penetration. What is important, but that also my colleague from the Daimler side still mentioned, yeah, a rapid development of the H2 tank technology, but also establishment of H2 infrastructure are key. Yeah. So that in a rough glance, let me say, overview. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Markus. We've come to our last contribution from a guest today before we take over again and wrap it up here at the chamber. It's time to listen to Björn Aronsson, who is Managing Director at Vätgas Sverige, Hydrogen Sweden. Warm welcome, Björn, and maybe you can tell something on in which fields Swedish companies are strong. Please.
Yes, thank you very much. And Vätgas Sverige, that is Hydrogen Sweden, or in German, Wasserstoff Schweden. So I will make a short trip here with framing the members we have and the competence we can offer from the Swedish side. And I can tell you that we have had a long cooperation with Germany in this sector. So our organization has been up running for 14 years now, and there has been plenty of studies done where both Sweden and Germany have been cooperating. And we did actually drive the B-class cars here in Scandinavia 10 years ago, and they worked excellently. So we would like to see more of that coming. Here you can see the members of Hydrogen Sweden, and it's a mix of the private sector, the public sector, and the academia. And it's all from small to big companies. So you will recognize some of the logos, and we are very happy that we have more or less all of the value chain joining us here. And the interest is increasing, so we have a lot new members coming in here during this year. So we are getting close to 70 members at the moment. So our playground, that is the sustainable society. As we heard from previous speakers here, hydrogen is nothing new. It's been used in the industry for many, many years. It's roughly 50 years. It has had a very important role in different processes within the industry. But it's also a very important energy, an excellent energy carrier, which gives now a big potential in other areas. We take in the energy sector, where we know that we will need to have a lot of new renewable energy coming into the system, and that needs to be handled by a energy storage situation, and hydrogen can store a big amount of energy over a very long time, and that is a very, very important asset. And while producing hydrogen, we use the electrolyzers that also can stabilize the grid during the production. The combination of the electricity system and the gas system is also a big important role. And we see in some national strategies where these two systems can actually cooperate through the bridge of hydrogen. The transport sector we have heard a lot about, and we see that hydrogen can be used as a fuel in all parts of the transport sector. And the building sector is coming with a big importance here, where we also can control energy over time and support actually the very big need of energy within the building sector. So hydrogen has a key role to play. And one very important thing is the cooperation between the sectors. The sectoral integration is a key to get this successful and make it also profitable over time. So we need to cooperate between the business sectors. And I think that is also the key word for this seminar, that a cooperation between the countries is really necessary to make the good solutions. So this year, the 2020, is actually a historical year for hydrogen. Many of us have been working with this for many, many years, but what we saw now, the 8th of July, where EU released the integrated energy strategy and the EU hydrogen strategy, it was really amazing for us to see that now it's really happening. And we are adding also the Hydrogen Council, with getting closer to 100 members now, which is a very strong group that will go into this and take their share, make their job, and also create global business. On the Swedish side, we have been putting in effort into hydrogen from time to time. During the 1960s, we had quite an advanced research program, and then it was a bit slow for some years, and then we had a program during the 90s again. And now we see 10 years of a little bit less research, but it's ramping up again now from this year. So there is a Swedish memorandum from the government reflecting on the EU strategy, and Sweden is also now making a hydrogen strategy that will be ready later this year. So going into the Swedish hydrogen strategy, it should be connected to the strategies I mentioned before, the integrated energy system strategy and the EU hydrogen strategy. It's important that this hydrogen strategy in Sweden is also connected to the 22 roadmaps, and that the fossil-free Sweden is running. And this is from 22 business sectors where they are making a plan for how they will cut emissions. So this will be very interesting to see the connection between a hydrogen strategy and these roadmaps. It's important that the Swedish strategy also will address the renewable energy that we will put into the system to actually show the potential of storing the energy in hydrogen, which means that you can actually add more renewable energy to the system. And it will also support the grid. And it's important also that it will not only be a few business sectors. We see that the scope is really, really big. And you saw the picture of the sustainable society that I showed in the beginning here, that all the relevant business sectors are invited, and they have to take a stand here and give the opportunity to find where hydrogen will play a key role for them. The strategy will be ready in December, and in January, it's a plan that the Fossil-Free Sweden will hand over the strategy to the government. So I was asked to show the strength within the Swedish hydrogen society. And I came up with 4 headlines where I see that we have a long-term hard work and focus on some sectors, and it's especially on the material side, where we have from the academic side, we have from the Chalmers University in Gothenburg, from the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, and Umeå University. There is also a number of another group of universities. They are doing some parts of the material research. And this has led to a number of very good engineers and good findings that is really helping the area to cut costs, to increase the lifetime of the parts and the systems. And we can see also that that is reflected in some of the companies here. We have on the material knowledge side and on the coating side, we have the Impact Coatings and Sandvik, and they are specialized in coating the steel plates that are integrated in the fuel cells. So on the material side, I would say that here you can find very nice competence to support the business development in the sector. Safety is another important area for both Sweden and Germany. So I will mention a few here. The big institute RISE. We have a specialist company in fire safety and design. And we have the engineering consultancy company Sweco, who is also focusing in safety. So here I see that there will be a lot of work done. And this was also one key area from the EU strategy that focus on safety. So there are a lot of components and subsystems, and you need to integrate them to get a complete good solution. And here we have two companies, Nielsen Energy and Euromechanic, and they have been focusing on just the system integration, which is a key here. And we have seen now the first installations in buildings and also in the industry from these two. So this will be some very important, not only demonstration projects anymore, it's actually real projects now that should be up running and give a profit over time. So this is a key knowledge. And then there is a group of technologies providers, and I'm sorry I'm not showing the big ones here like Linde and Bosch and Siemens and ABB, because you already have the channels between the countries. I'm showing the smaller ones here that might be of interest. And they are all specializing in different aspects here. Some are also good in materials, power cell on the stack. Permascand is working with parts for electrolyzers. The Metacon company is reforming biomethane to hydrogen. Plagazzi has actually an order now in Berlin where they are taking care of the waste and making hydrogen out of waste. MyFC has very small fuel cells. The Kraft PowerCon is making the electricity control system for electrolyzers. Cell Impact is stamping the plates within the fuel cells. And Cortes is making a gasification process of biomass to hydrogen. And Aquagas is heavily involved in the components for refueling stations for hydrogen. So and this is a very interesting map of knowledge, and I can see big potential of cooperation between Sweden and Germany, between these players. And there will be a number more coming up. And referring to the presentation we heard in the beginning from Mr. Kuhlmann, the IPCEI projects is really a possibility for us for a cross-border cooperation, big scale in projects. So I say thank you for the attention, and I look forward to finding good cooperation opportunities between our countries.
Thank you very much, Björn, for this. We are almost at the end of today's session. But one important thing remains, namely, as I promised in my introduction, to have a closer look at the opportunities for German and Swedish companies and how our tech forum, the German Swedish Tech Forum, can support these enterprises. I therefore welcome my colleague Nini Lövgren, who is Head of Market Entry and Business Development here at the Chamber. Welcome, Nini. Nini is also one of our many German-Swedish hybrids. We also have Swedish-German hybrids, all variations of course, born in Germany, but since many years now living in Sweden. Hello, Nini.
Thank you, Valle. So as facilitator and operative partner for German-Swedish business, as we've talked about before today, we of course look closely into finding new business opportunities for German-Swedish companies and competencies to match and to develop further together. And today's session show very clearly that even though the area is still in pilot stage and a lot of questions are still to solve, the area of hydrogen is another possibility for German-Swedish collaborations. Or it almost seems that there is a clear need for this kind of bilateral cooperation. So that is fantastic, of course.
And can you give an example on that?
Yeah, we also today heard a lot about the financial incentives from the EU, but also on the national basis. And here companies from 2 member states have to apply together. And that is, by the way, also a cornerstone, as we understood, from the for the upcoming national Swedish hydrogen strategy. And since there are clear key competencies between our countries that match perfectly well, that is, of course, a very good starting point for bilateral collaborations. But on the other hand, we have also observed that there is a lot of questions, especially from SMEs that approach us at the Chamber, because they have difficulties in finding suitable partners. And maybe that could be a part where we come in and we support, because we can match and present the companies for one another. That is part of our innovation platform, as you mentioned, Valle, the German Swedish Tech Forum that we initiated together with our friends at the EVA, the Swedish counterpart of Akatech.
And we also have a cooperation with the Swedish Energy Agency and the German Energy Agency Dena, which was mentioned before, since we had Mr. Kuhlmann here today.
Yeah, that is true. So that, of course, is building on strong German-Swedish trade relations and many existing collaborations, especially in the area of energy. And Dena, we already heard Andreas Kuhlmann talking about the SET award, where we assist, and we can see that also Swedish startups and scale-ups within the area of energy can pitch. But also we have a very close cooperation with the Swedish Energy Agency, Energimyndigheten, that was also mentioned before. And we, during last year, launched the so-called Swedish-German Clean Tech platform. And that is a program where we both enhance bilateral exchange within the area, but also help Swedish companies with energy relevance to enter the German market. So it's, as we like it, pragmatic and hands-on, with information, partner brokerage, also again get people connected, and dedicated delegation trips. And maybe we should also mention that this program is open for all Swedish SMEs within the energy relevant sectors, and it's technology open. So yeah, it's also open for the area of hydrogen, of course.
Exciting. And so how can we secure that we keep up the speed and keep in touch at the Chamber?
Yeah, I mean, we would of course like to see this session as a starting point for continuous dialogue between us. We've heard it today from all speakers. I think that it's all about not only innovation but also collaboration. We've seen fantastic first examples of it, and now we have to see that we keep this dialogue running, and we would like to encourage you to send us questions, but also maybe inputs on where you see challenges and possibilities, both sides, I guess, so that we can condense the areas where clear German-Swedish business opportunities arise. And on the other hand, also, of course, help you individually in connecting you in the fields where the questions are on the table, but also in helping each other to develop further, maybe to get a forerunner role for the German-Swedish part in this area, which seems to be the new black.
Yes, and we will continue, as Nini mentioned, the new black hydrogen, let's call it that. And we're always looking ahead, of course, also, or maybe especially in turbulent times, as we are experiencing right now. So on December 8th, it is time for hydrogen again. Then we will focus on the Swedish national strategy, which was briefly mentioned by Björn in his presentation. We have a guest who is Svante Axelsson, the national coordinator for Fossil-Free Sweden, and we will have speakers from Siemens and PowerCell, among others. As Nini mentioned, you're more than welcome to send us your questions on hydrogen. We have received some during today's session, and we will try to talk about as many of these on December 8th. And already next week we have on November 12th another webinar, this time on circular economy with the Swedish Minister for Business, Industry and Innovation, Ibrahim Baylan. So please tune in again next week, and see you again in December to talk some more about hydrogen. And thank you to our guest speakers today and all our viewers, and we look forward to see you again soon. And until then, take care and stay healthy. Goodbye from us.